Architectural Builder Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
Hinges that you guys are selling. I've got a door, pivot door, offset pivot door in paneling, and it needs to return, instead of swinging, 180 on both sides or 90 on both sides, it needs to return to its position, like aligned exactly with the paneling. So I'm wondering if I can use some of these earthquake-tolerant hinges, like model H340 or H345, that have the pin that drops. I'm not familiar with them, so I'm not sure, is there a locking mechanism, or does it automatically pop back up when you apply pressure?
All that is a top pivot. It's a center hung top pivot, are those two part numbers. Do you want this to be self-closing?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so far you're good. So you'll use some version of a center hung top pivot. It could be either of the two that you've mentioned. And then you'll use, something at the bottom, something appropriate for the weight of the door, most likely.
So what does this pin do? Does it actually align? It helps to keep the door aligned, I assume?
No. All the pin does is penetrate deeper into the top of the door, so that if your rectangle becomes a parallelogram in an earthquake, the more pin in the top of the door keeps that door from falling out of the opening.
Is there a Rixson hinge that has a pin that drops to help the door stay aligned? Or no?
No. And when you say aligned, you want the door to be flush with the paneling, with the wall.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any, if you want that to happen well, the answer is no, but you'll need to have some hardware, I imagine, to keep the door in its position. Does the door need to double act?
No, it does not. I guess I need a self-closing mechanism and then provide some kind of a jam, a concealed jam.
Well, possibly. If you don't need it to double act and you're using center hung hardware because you want to conceal the hardware as much as possible, what goes along with center hung pivots for this purpose is like a roller latch, so that when you push the door closed, it stays there. And, how the hardware is installed is going to achieve, the center line of the strike, the center line of the roller latch is going to keep that door flush with the wall.
Yeah, those roller latches are a pain. It's a door that's can't used a lot.
Well, maybe the door is going to get used a lot. So what's the application?
It's residential, but it's there's a trash chute behind the door, so it's not used like every day.
Oh yeah. As far as I'm concerned, that ought to have a center hung closer on it, and then some sort of an auxiliary stop so that it will automatically close every single time. Otherwise, you're going to be pushing that door closed. Now, there's something relatively new on the market. That's not a roller latch. It is, think of a couple of really heavy pull force magnets. And one gets mortised to the underside of the header and the other to the top of the door. And you install those such that it acts as a roller latch, or in the jam as well, the style of the door.
Oh, yeah. Actually, we're using those on some other doors. It's still vertical, right? So you don't get the bang, but it just hold it together or whatever.
Well, I don't know.
So if I did an offset pivot, does that change anything?
Not as far as I'm concerned. You're going to see the hardware. You'll see more of the hardware. While you don't see much, you'll see the knuckles top and bottom, and likely the intermediates as well. Why not use something concealed like sauce?
The millworker has some issues with sauce hinges because it's a tall door, I think.
I would love to know what those issues are. I'm intimately familiar with sauce, and they've never let me down. And the only time I find when people have issue with sauce is when they're intimidated by it. I can't machine for that. That's too, or, I'd like to have a conversation about that. Sauce sounds ideal. So I've hung 1,000-pound doors with sauce.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have
And
in
I'm
our
not
original.
exaggerating.
Yeah, that's what we have in our original drawing. This is like the middle time, so we're kind of looking at other options. But. All right, well, I appreciate it.
So
sounds like
before we go further, yeah. So I got some of that on my lapel. The disadvantage of center hung is you're going to have to bull nose the style of the door. So it's going to really change what the door looks like unless you get extremely technical with millwork, so that you are, making it so that you don't have that same type of problem with the hardware. So sauce is extremely ideal because if you need only single acting and you don't want to see the hardware, and sauce will allow you to have a warranty on the door, where typically a wood door is, the manufacturer is going to leave you disqualified because you've improperly hung it when you use center hung. So sauce is really a champion in this regard. If there's any hesitancy, I would suggest someone call me so I can talk through that with someone. I've actually done it more times than I can count. So, I'm happy to help somebody if necessary.
Okay. That's great. I appreciate it. Where are you guys located? I'm just curious.
Southwest Florida.
Florida. Okay. All right. And if it shows it it would tell me if something's not in stock, I assume, on your website?
Not necessarily. It may say it's in stock. There's always a lead time statement there. We endeavor to have that as accurate as possible.
Okay. All right.
But
Sounds good. Let me do a little more research. No. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I don't feel like I've helped at all, so feel free to call back, okay? My name is Richard.
The help is to push back on the soft hinges like they were.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Include me in all future conversations. I will alleviate anyone's hesitancy if that's the case. I'm intimately familiar with concealed hinges like that. I know how to do it.
As far as a self-closing mechanism, though, that'd be an independent thing if you do soft hinges. There is no soft close soft hinge, I assume.
Well, sauce does have their concealed closers, but soft close, no. If you wanted something like that, I would recommend that you get into an overhead concealed closer that could be offset or center hung. You then, if it's offset, you'll have a stop. If it's center hung, you'll have a stop, an applied stop, and it's certainly going to impact the cost of that opening. But my goodness, for decades, it's going to be the cat's meow. I mean, just perfect. Get a Rixson overhead concealed closer, or even a floor closer. I mean, there's Rixson Junior. Well, there's Rixson floor closers that have been installed for a century plus. So it's if I was going to detail that opening, and if I had an understanding of the client, I very likely could bring a floor or an overhead concealed closer into the mix. I don't like the sauce concealed closers because it's just a spring. Let the door go, and it's the spring releasing its energy. Stored to kinetic, and there's nothing that's going to slow it down at the end.
So for the Rixson concealed closer, floor closer, is there one that you don't see that's also that remains in the profile of the door or in the back of the door?
So if you did a floor closer, you would see the floor plate, but you could most absolutely install concealed closers that when the door is closed, there's really no evidence of there being a closer there.
Okay. What's an example of a part number for that on your website?
You probably want to pull up the Rixson catalog. I would look at a number 800 possibly. But when you get into their overhead closer section, it's just an easy scroll through the catalog. And if it's not Rixson, it can be, someone else. They've got a 91 that might work out really well. Their catalog is very approachable, and for someone with your training and background, I think you'll find it very accessible.
All right. I appreciate your help. Thanks.
Thank you for calling, sir. Bye-bye. Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.